My agenda here has nothing to do with being correct or providing advice, but rather to suss out potential ways of considering various topics and situations. Not here to make friends or inspire enemy combatants, though also not opposed to either. Correct me, criticize me, words still won't hurt me. That said, the zombie apocalypse is happening if you acknowledge how many people can rationalize their way out of a paper bag. Any cures provided happen naturally, and I'm not liable. Carry on, shall we? Howdy, humans. I'm looking over what I had written down prior to initiating this dialogue. And I've said I wouldn't read anything because nobody wants to watch me read anything. But this one, I feel as though I really should just read it to make the point I'm trying to make, which is about, just because I'm not some flowery, waffly female, I'm macho. I've been treated like I'm some macho, masculine female when that doesn't make any sense. And I'm not sure that I can, since I'm not always the best at having coherent thoughts, if I'm honest. I think this is why I like writing better. I enjoy talking, but writing, I tend to be clear in what I'm trying to get at. So I am going to read this, but I'm going to try not to just look down and make the worst of it. But reading this, I'm like, I don't know if I could just babble that off the top of my head as clearly as I say it here. So here goes. Apologies for reading from a piece of paper. I don't like doing it as much as you probably don't like being on the receiving end of it. But c'est la vie. Turn me off if you'd like. Alright, so here goes. As a strong female, I've been treated like I am therefore macho in some way. Let's be honest, mothers are some of the most badass actors in the animal kingdom, and they aren't called macho or manly. Concept debunked, full stop. That said, there is this unreasonable and unhealthy expectation that women should be fragile, flowery, and unable to protect themselves. How does that actually make sense to believe? We are supposed to believe that as a form unto itself, one should inherently be incapable of being self-reliant, that some part of me, related to my anatomy, deems me inadequate to brave a world with courage and capability. That if I am able to do so, there is something about me that is a deviant to the laws of nature, that somehow an injustice has been done to the world of norms that makes me worthy of derogatory attitudes. We shouldn't be balanced and self-sustaining to be attractive or acceptable. Why do I have to not be well-rounded to attract a mate? That is counterintuitive to truth. So, now I'll just rattle on about it after. And I've never understood that. That makes no sense to me to think that, first of all, I shouldn't be, self-contained in a way that makes me not relying on other people, right? So isn't the whole point of being well-rounded to be a valuable, constructive, non-succubus entity in the world? Shouldn't I be able to defend myself if need be? Shouldn't I not necessarily, and I'm not saying relying on other people for things is not natural and normal and perfectly acceptable. I'm just trying to point out that because I am self-reliant, I'm macho? Or am I just a balanced human being who isn't limited to like a specific silo of feminine qualities, like not being able to defend myself? That wouldn't be useful or helpful to me, would it? God, like how... And I feel as though every time I've been treated like I'm too macho or too assertive for my own good, it's been because some guy isn't as macho and assertive, macho, as I am. Like, so your own perceived inadequacies, from your own perception, how you see your inadequacies, mean that I should also be inadequate in that regard, to not make you mad at me or start, because no one treats you like you're being macho or too assertive in a positive way. I mean, some people think it's funny. I've had lots of people be amused that I'm not just tolerating BS that I've said, yeah, no, I don't like that. Some people do find that funny and I swear they're almost amused because it is uncomfortable for them, because it's not necessarily commonplace. But my name is Lorene. It's like, just because you never heard of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist or that it shouldn't. Because I've told people my name is Lorene, and then they're like, oh, Lorraine, and it's like, no, I didn't say my name wrong. You don't have to turn what you actually heard me say into something that you're familiar with. You can accept the fact that it's something new. Right? Like, what in the, I don't, because gender norms and all that other baggage we've got in society, I've been a deviant. Ooh, creating chaos in an orderly world. The world is chaotic. And when we accept that, we can stop trying to fit everything into a neat and tidy box that really shouldn't have a place anywhere. I just don't really get that. I don't get, and as like I tried to say in the beginning, there's lots of wild animals which we're supposed to be tame, especially females. Plenty of mothers in the wild are freaking ferocious. They kill other things that try to harm their children and all this stuff. And that's natural. And we think, well, heck yeah. And we support that if we were ever to see it. But when it's a human being, shame on you. Know your norms. Stay in the box. And say, I'll claw my way out of that box. and get shit for it. It's been so incredibly frustrating, because I'm not a huge person. 5'7", I'm like 135, something like that. And that's considered small to some people. I'm like, I'm kind of tallish, and I'm not like fragile. No, you couldn't possibly be able to pick up something more than 20 pounds, and just all kinds of weird. So I've proven to myself I'm very comfortable not feeling the need to pretend that I'm more feminine than I am. Like, can I not do both? Like, because maybe my ability to do things that men typically are more socially accepted for doing, like, because I can do those things, there's something wrong with like my development or my unwillingness to convince myself I'm not able to do those things. I don't like, what? So how does that make me macho? To do something that's perfectly natural in the animal kingdom. I mean, yes, I argue about what civilized even means and if we are civilized or not, but it's like it's like being deemed a feral cat. I'm not feral. I'm just not afraid to explore my potential. And so now you're gonna try to put me down because you think that I even want to adhere to what women are supposed to be doing. I've never been barefoot and pregnant. right? Like, it's not my idea of a preferred way of living. It's just not, doesn't make me right or wrong. It's just how I choose to live. So try to stigmatize me in a way that makes me feel like I shouldn't be doing that. It's not going to work. Because believe me, armies have tried. There's been quite a few instances where I feel as though there's been a deliberate effort to make me back off from being my natural self, which is to not be limited by social norms. I mean, maybe I should just own it. Maybe that's really what should happen. I'm gonna own being macho. I'm an alpha dog. I am a bit, I mean, I'm not gonna say that that's not true, you know. Because I'm not gonna say that I totally 100% approve of even the term itself, but in the sense of being able to acknowledge what being an alpha refers to, I'm certainly that. I wouldn't say I'm not. I've walked around saying that I am. How I got to being that way is not necessarily healthy, sure. But now I'm just confident. I don't need to feel like I'm an alpha. I don't need to be called an alpha. I'm just not a beta. Totally just blew apart my whole, I'm not sure if I ascribe to this. I get that. You know, I just want to say to any women out there who have been who've even gotten to be considered macho or something by necessity because they've been abandoned by men. I mean, that happens too. So why it has to be this like macho or feminine thing? Can it just be how somebody turned out to be because of life circumstances? Why does it have to be these weird terms that really don't mean shit to me? Macho doesn't mean shit to me. But yeah, because I have macho or manly. Okay, so if I'm manly, I'm manly. I don't inherently object to it. I just know that when I'm referred to that way, it's in a derogatory way. So that's what I'm trying to address here. But there's so many people, there's lots of women out there who are just strong because they're strong. It has nothing to do with any of these like social constraints. It's just who they are. It's like, maybe I'll end here. I feel like so much of what's going on in the world, I see it as just being too dualistic, right? There's so many extremes, you know, like you could be hyper feminine and do that if that's what you want to do. If that's what, if what is deemed hyper feminine is how you want to express yourself, go for it. I don't have a problem with that. That's my point. Or if you want to be really macho and masculine or whatever you think is really manly, live it. But it's as if that is more acceptable in a lot of cases and in a lot of social circles than to just be somewhere in the middle. That's my point about being balanced. I feel like I'm just balanced. I'm a good housekeeper. I like makeup. I do girly things. I do boyish things. I like to climb trees if it's a climbable tree. You know, like whatever would even... Because that's the point too, is like, how do we distinguish what is one or the other than how something looks that we... It's like the argument of like a guy wearing a dress. Like men wear kilts. Men still wear kilts. The only reason we can even put things in these two categories instead of just stuff, which is what it is, when it comes down to it, a dress is fabric, just like a pair of pants are just fabric, cut and sewn in a different way. We have to make them one or the other. When reality is pretty much always somewhere in the middle. The favored route, or the least conflicted, because if you have two things, there's conflict, there's duality, and of course, like, you couldn't understand what day was without night. You need those things for contrast to comprehend what the other means. So knowing one, knowing masculine, informs you as to what feminine might be. But strictly living in those two lanes isn't necessarily where reality plays out. My reality is played out where I don't feel any specific need to deem the things I'm interested in, or the things or the ways that I express myself, as being in either of those categories. It's just what I am. Hilarious to me. Well, I'm just tough, because women can't be tough, so that must be manly. When you can look in the world and see that that's not true. Like, what are it? Fine. It's just, it's not where I live. I don't live in categories. Guess I've never really understood categories very well. I grew up in a world of nothing making any sense, so I didn't try to make sense of things by categorizing them. I just did what I could to survive, and this is what came out of it. So, if anything I've said makes sense and you feel like you can relate, I'm glad. If it feels at all cathartic for you to hear somebody else express the same feeling about what I've discussed here today, I'm happy to do that for you. And if you're someone who doesn't relate to what I'm saying, and you like your two categories, maybe I've at least opened the door to you understanding that it doesn't have to be that way. So until next time, folks, toodles.